The myth of rural communities is that they are places where the social fabric is deteriorating and folks don't know their neighbors anymore and folks aren't involved. And it's not that we don't have some of those challenges, but I think that the real challenge is to go a little bit deeper and to ask folks, rather than say, do you know your neighbors? Ask, how are you involved with your community? I think that people here are also very friendly and are people that have deep roots. And I mean that in a couple of ways. I mean that in terms of folks being connected to this land. Folks feel very connected to this place, to the geography and landscape of this area, and are committed to protecting it and making sure that it thrives.
Community listening to me is a lot about the posture of observing before acting, of observing and then mobilizing other people to do something that you could probably do yourself. But how much more value would it be to the community and to other people you engage if you take the time to engage with them? It's really wonderful to know that community listening takes on a lot of different forms. So we see it done informally in places and done formally, like in the Listening Project.
The Todd Listening Project began in 2014 with a mission to connect the community of Todd through listening and organizing. By going door to door and interviewing residents, volunteers learn the skills, concerns, and dreams within the community.
I send volunteers out with a folder that has a map of their route, which is basically a street or series of streets in Todd. The folder also has several copies of our survey and our skills inventory. So our volunteers know how to use those materials, when to use those materials, and it's a 10-question survey that they use if they are invited into someone's home. 62% of residents specifically noted that they would either change the general store as it is, being reopened, or made some mention of food, prepared food and commodity food, and fellowship, a place to gather.
It's been a long journey in trying to build this sort of food sanctuary or safe place where food is accessible to all. The reason we're hopeful is because of the Todd Listening Project. You know, we've gone out there, we've knocked door to door and asked folks, you know, what is it that you want to see in Todd? These are the results, and so the next step is the action part of it and manifesting their wishes and dreams and the gifts of Todd into something a little bit more concrete.
Something that's really important to me is that when we choose to give, especially food, that we are sharing the best. I believe that's what God does, is what Jesus demonstrated. Why are we giving the poor our second best when we do give? And in my opinion, the best is fresh, healthy food from healthy soil, grown right here. So with Todd's Table, we're hoping to expand the access to that food here in Todd and in the surrounding area. So the mobile market will help us not just set up right here in Todd, but go to other areas in the vicinity, Deep Gap, Meat Camp.
It's actually going to be several phases. So the first phase is we're converting the puppet wagon that had been used by Elkland Arts Center. We're going to be using that as a mobile food produce stand. Phase 2 is going to be a little bit bigger. So we're going to have a commissary sort of situation, and we are converting a 22 to 24 foot trailer to use as the kitchen space. Phase 3, which is also in keeping with the results from the Todd Listening Project, is a gathering space. So there's a lot of love and energy exchanged on the way to the end user. And I always tell folks you can taste the love in the food.
We spent years listening to this community, and we have a lot more listening to do. What I'm excited about with Todd's Table and the market is the chance to respond with integrity to the ways that the people we've interviewed have been willing to trust us with their stories.